lipids, right, that drive everything. And you look at the numbers, and you know, that's why I know that God was the architect, because these numbers are precise. It's not like it's a guess, right? The numbers are very clear and very precise what they should be and what they should not be. High, then we begin to have what we call distress. So let's look at the second set of numbers, blood pressure. We're going to show you a diagram on what is systolic. Turn to the next page, because a lot of people don't know what the top number and the bottom number is when they take their blood pressure. So you saw the diagram of your heart. The systole, right, is the number that blood is going out of the heart. Why is that pressure higher than the one of it coming back? Tell me.
So there's a motivating force.
Because it has to pump it throughout the whole body. And then the one coming back has to be dampened so it doesn't break the heart with the pressure coming back. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah. So that's the one going out. And typically, when you have high blood pressure, the systolic and the diastolic, you see, the levels of increase is very different, right? I know that's not in your book, I'm just saying. So typically, this number should be around 120, and this one should be 120 or below, and this one should be below 80. So, did somebody say something? Okay. So, below 80. Oh, sorry. Okay. Thank you, mathematician James.
No problem.
All right. So, if this is at 88 and this is at 140, we have a problem, right? So, this is the challenge with blood pressure. Now, do you understand these numbers? And the last one underneath is called the pulse, which is the heart rate, right? Where should that number be?
In the 60.
Well, averagely
60.
around 60, but some people like me are 59, but typically it should be between 60 to 70, right? And when it is lower than that, it's either you do sports or you have a problem. If you don't exercise and you have a low pulse rate, it means you're dying. Okay, so it's very important those that you know, get very familiar with these numbers, okay? And it's not a joke. And don't buy some cheap blood pressure machine at home and deceive yourself that you're fine. You need to come here and use proper machines, right? That's why the ones you use at home lie to you, and then you go to the hospital and, oh, but when I measure it at home, it's always fine. Which is a lie, because you were using improper machines, right? You need to use machines like the one we have. And you need, how often should you check your blood pressure?
Well, if you're trying to improve, probably daily.
Yes, right? Yes.
If you're trying to, if you know you're in tougher shape.
Your doctor is ignorant. And if you die, he's not going to pay for your insurance, is she?
He carries on, or she does.
Exactly. So I'm giving you how to protect yourself, right? As long as you're above 40 years old, you should be taking your blood pressure as often as possible, okay? And if you really have high blood pressure, or you have some of the things we're going to talk about, at least you should check it daily, okay? It's important, yeah.
So on the frequency of taking your blood pressure, and then before we leave this, you said low heart rate, and if you're not in sports and all, that's an indication of problem. It
could also be genetic.
Well, okay, let's put that aside. Let's say it's the health aspect. Is that the electrical pulsing is off, or is that something else?
Yeah, typically it's a lot of things. Okay. So you'll need to do an EKG for us to find out what's really going on.
Okay, so
the numbers are all interrelated. When God was creating this architecture, it made it really complex.
Yeah, got that.
Right, and so one number doesn't really tell the whole story. You need.
Okay.
We're trying to get as smart as God, so that we can look at the numbers and know what it actually means. So there's this course we're opening up where you will go to heaven, God will train you as a mechanic, and you come back.
Okay.
And then you can really tell us what the numbers actually mean. But for right now, we're like really trying to put the numbers together to sort it out, right?
So on taking your blood pressure daily, if you take it several times in a day, you have been walking around, so you're gonna get varying numbers. How
Yes.
do you normalize that? Or should you just take it
No,
once?
no, because over time you begin to see a trend of morning, of afternoon, of evening, and at night. See, most people die from heart attacks around between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Most heart attacks, that's when they happen, or strokes. They happen around there. So you want to, and the reason is because you wake up, your body's been trying to clean itself, and the body is not working. And so the body goes into an arrest. Okay, so that's where most heart attacks happen. So you want to look at the variability. It's like with stress also. You want to see what it is in the morning, because it's like the glucometer. You want to find out what time of day you actually are in a good place, right? Is it when your boss just kicked your ass like I do often?
Yeah.
Or is it when you had a good dinner? Or when you get home and you don't really like your wife or something, right? You know, where is your blood pressure really happening? And if your blood pressure is happening when you get home and your wife is giving you trouble, or your husband, then you start thinking of kicking them out so that you can have good health, right? You want to take the necessary actions to make sure you stay healthy, right? You want to reduce stress in your life, okay? Sorry, I'm making jokes of very important things, but you know, that's what life is, isn't it? It's real life, right? You don't want to stay with people who are making you sick, right? It's important, right? They call it unhealthy relationships. So we've looked at systolic, diastolic. So do you understand those numbers now? So when they give you your blood pressure measurement, you need to understand why that one is bigger and the other one is smaller, right? Because if it was coming back at 120 milligrams of mercury, it will break the muscles in your heart. And also the reason it's coming back is because they're traveling long distance from your feet, from your brain blood barrier, from your fingers. So all that is taking the pressure away. So by the time they're arriving, almost half of the pressure is gone, right? It leaves at 120 and it arrives back around 80. You get that? All right? Is it clear now? So you actually understand those numbers. It's one of the most important numbers that you need to know, okay? And go buy a proper good machine at home to measure your blood pressure. Buy an expensive one.
Yeah, you can buy expensive ones.
It
It's a
doesn't work.
crapshoot.
Yeah, it's still not
I went
working.
through
If I
about
have one,
five.
it's not working.
I went through about 5 before I just
Okay,
threw them away.
Americans, this is not the Liberal Party discussion. Stop complaining. So if yours at home is not working, come here.
That's what I did.
Yeah,
I
so
quit.
come. You can come all the time. We welcome you. There's coffee, there's tea, and then we'll just take your credit card and charge you for the visit. Okay. All right. Now let's talk about BMI. Oh, that's James's lovely numbers, right, James?
Yes.
You are now struggling with these numbers.
Pointing that out. Yes, that's great.
James, you are not battling with this number. So mine is, I'm around 30 now on my BMI. So I'm just at the cusp of moving from overweight into obese class 1, right? I'm carrying about 40 pounds of extra. When I do my body composition, it's telling me that I'm carrying about 40 pounds of extra, right? It's really the fat and the weight, right? So some of that is muscle. So the actual fat part I need to lose is about 25. Okay, so BMI, very important measurement, especially if you're at my age, because that fat here, it's the crazy destructive fat because it's close to your spleen, your liver, and your kidney. And fat around those areas is very dangerous for health, as we'll talk about when you come to our other classes. So let's go back. BMI, how many people here know their BMI? Is it you? What is your BMI? What's your name?
Marisa.
Marisa, what's your BMI? I mean, sorry, it's confidential. Do you want to tell us? Okay. Who, James, you want to tell us, my friend, what
Well, I
your
don't
BMI
remember,
is?
but I think I'm obese class 3, so we can go there.
But I thought you were already reducing that significantly.
Well, I was obese class 4 and 5. And
Yeah, it's
sort
not
of
on the
came-
chart.
I know.
Yeah. So now you're within the chart.
Yeah.
You see what progress is? He was off the charts, now he's within the charts, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I came in at 200 over 120, so we've made a lot of progress.
I know. You hear that? The man has done some good stuff, okay? And then there's family history that we always need to do. So it is really important that you know whether your family members actually had a stroke, had high blood pressure, hypertension, and all of those things. So some people, let's go to this page. Yes.
On the family history, what is the significance that you
Genetic,
genetically
we'll
have
talk about it when we look at some of that. No, then it means there's a genetic susceptibility.
something like thinner heart walls or something like that?
It depends.
Or a bunch
You
of
could have inherited a lot of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I haven't been trained by the God mechanics yet
Okay.
to know which one particularly, right? Okay, so let's look at high blood pressure symptoms, right? Like Kim was saying that she fainted on the streets in Vietnam once. So dizziness, fainting, headaches, like migraines persistently is a sign. Chest pain and angina, difficulty breathing, oedemas, fatigue in your legs, swollen abdomen, arrhythmias, nosebleeds, and blurred vision. These are all the signs, but it just means go take your blood pressure, right? All right. Yes.
I was gonna ask that.
It's swellings.
Oh, your feet swell.
Yeah, when your feet swell when you fly.
It's water. Because your blood is not circulating.
Water retention, because the circulation is not, right? And so there are socks now that you can use for that. Those high pressured socks. So if you're somebody who when you fly you have inflammation, you should wear those high pressure socks. What they do is that it forces circulation through the leg so that you don't have oedemas, you don't have swellings, okay? So this page is just a rough run through hypertension, causes by cardiac output or by systemic vascular resistance. So some people, they have clean lipids and everything, but they still have high blood pressure. So some of it is from stress, right? We run a class on stress. You can come to that class and we'll talk a lot about stress. So you could be really healthy, but you're just a stressful kind of person. Like Kim. Everywhere Kim goes, she creates really stressful energy. Why is my coffee not ready? When are you gonna do that? Come here! Right? Some of us are just highly stressed people, right? Even we're driving in traffic, we want to lecture everybody else who's not driving well, right? You know, we're just stressed. You understand? And so that's a challenge. So you need to learn how to, right? Calm down all the time. Then you see all the other things that also cause hypertension, diabetes, right? Renal artery disease, lots of different things. So I'm going to move quickly. This is handouts you're going to take with you so you can read this. So there are different things that they're going to call all this stuff like dyslipidemia, cholesterol transport, blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to get off this page now and go to this. So we put a lot of things at the end that will tell you recommendations that we are making for different things, okay? How many people have filled our lifestyle program? So now can we do the video for Boston? I want you to watch a short video. Which one are we watching? I would surprise me, excite me.
Boston.
Okay. So Boston had diagnostics, as we're going to be talking about them a lot. Go ahead, let's start it. I just wanted to give you a short introduction video. They are really the world-class diagnostics for heart issues.
Boston Heart is the only cardiovascular disease healthcare services company pioneering key diagnostic insights to identify a patient's true risk of heart disease and related conditions, provide individualized, actionable reports, and engage patients in their own heart health. Let's take a look at one of the breakthrough patient reports prepared for John Hart.
I'm going to
The
give you some
diagnostic
of that.
report is written as a story told in the 4 parts of heart disease testing and a plan for well-being, including personalized nutrition. All based on test results and backed by thousands of peer-reviewed publications. The report helps John Hart better understand his test results, heart health, and where he needs to take action. It helps John's provider improve his adherence with treatment. A visual representation explains to John what each part of heart disease testing will reveal. Turn the page and what was general information is now completely personalized for John. The rings are now color-coded based on the relative risk of his test results. Lipids and inflammation indicate danger. Metabolics and genetics, caution. The overall risk statement gets John's attention and sets him up for action. Part 1 is the lipid story and is provided on a 2-page spread. The right side is completely individualized based on John's test results. An overall statement characterizes John's bad cholesterol. The individualized paragraph explains John's bad cholesterol results. Each test result is presented as color-coded circles placed on red, yellow, and green sliders, including a tip about the results such as too much or looks good. If John's test results looked good, this page would look like this. Because people learn and communicate differently, the report incorporates 3 ways to learn more about each section. First, a simple paragraph explanation. Next, imagery to help cement the learning. Lastly, a metaphor. John now has a framework to read the remaining parts of his personalized diagnostic testing: inflammation, metabolics, genetics, other tests. Treatment considerations provide an answer on how John can improve his yellow or red test results. His provider can highlight the actions for John to get to green. To help John get started, included is a snapshot of his life plan with personalized nutrition designed especially for him. Boston Heart is enabling everybody to improve heart health and prevent disease. Boston Heart is the only cardiovascular disease healthcare services company pioneering key diagnostic insights to identify a patient's true risk of heart disease and related conditions, provide individualized, actionable reports, and engage patients in their own heart health.
Okay, stop. So we have partnered with some of the most advanced next generation diagnostic companies. Most doctors are not using this next generation diagnostic companies. And it is your requirement, it is your need to make sure they are. If not, you're not getting value for your insurance or the right advice for the money that you pay, right? And if you're not getting value for your money, whose fault is it? James. Correct. It is your fault. That's the good thing about democracy, right? If you're not knowledgeable, then you should live in a communist system, right? It is your responsibility to know about your health. It's not your doctor's responsibility. Okay, so that report that you just saw, it's called a sample report, and a couple of you here already have these reports that we have run. And we use these reports in then designing your lifestyle design. So most of what we're going to be talking about today is centered around those 4 aspects. Can you bring in the reports? So let's walk through this in detail so that you get a sense. Yeah, please. So let's quickly you can have the sample. Okay, so let's quickly look. So there are 4 parts that when you run a Boston, it really looks at. It looks at, number 1, lipids. Lipids are made up of different kinds of cholesterols and fat that your body needs to function. Cholesterol, even though it looks like a problem, it's a really critical enzyme for the body, right? It's just that when you get too much and it's stored in the wrong places, it becomes a problem. It's a critical requirement for all of us. Your test results will tell you if you have too much cholesterol or fat. Whether the kind you have is dangerous, and if you're at risk of forming blockages that can lead to heart attack or stroke. Number 2, inflammation. Inflammation doesn't just affect your joints and your gums, right? Your joints and your gums, because when we have inflammation, there are other ways in which inflammation shows up that we are not even aware. It can also affect your arteries. And the biggest place where inflammation actually comes from, why did they mention the joints and the gums? Why did they mention that when they spoke about inflammation?
You can feel it, you can see it.
Yeah, no, you can feel the pain of that inflammation. But there are a lot of other inflammations in your body that you can't feel the pain. So the inflammation inside your arteries, you don't feel the pain. It just affects your blood pressure. Do you get that? And then number 3 is metabolics. Metabolic test tells you if you have diabetes or if you're at risk for developing diabetes, because diabetes significantly increases your risk for heart attack and stroke. And then number 4 is genetics. Your genes can influence your body's response to medication and nutrition. While your genes don't change, this information helps your healthcare provider determine your treatment, the right medication, the right dose, and even the right foods or nutrients. Okay? Quickly to the next page. So that's what it says. So in measuring all those areas, we want to, our job, and now I want to talk to you about anti-fragility health. Our job at Anti-Fragility Health is that, and it's a play on that word fragility, right? Anti-fragility. It's a play on this word because as we grow older, we move from what we call vitality, right? When we were young and we could do anything we want, to what I call normal health, to what I call distress, to what I call disorder. Typically in America, you go to the doctor when you have disorder. Most of us, chronic illnesses take about 10 to 20 years to fall to get you to disorder. At Anti-Fragility Health, we want to catch you on that journey so we can begin the process of reversal to bring you back to, we call this blue, we call that green, we call that yellow, and we call that red. So when we run your biomarkers, as we call it, because all these numbers we're looking at are clinical biomarkers, when we run your biomarkers, our objective is that we want to bring you to green, and if possible to blue. Blue is like a very tight range, right? Let's say BMI, blue BMI, are those people who run marathons. Their BMI is around 16, 17, 18, right? Really optimal health. If you have that kind of BMI and you don't run marathons, you're sick, right? Yeah, it's really optimal health, right? So, but the normal BMI is like around 20, 21, including for Asians, right? The numbers also differ for race. But when you start getting into what we call overweight and obesity, these are areas of distress because obesity or being overweight is a sign of distress. Something is going wrong in the body. You understand? And so what is anti-fragility? Our job is that we want to reduce your fragility. We want to reduce and bring you into the green and blue zone. You understand? In all the clinical biomarkers. That is the name, anti-fragility. We want to make you less fragile to aging, to disease, and to all of those things. So do you understand? That's really very important. That's the work we do here. So a lot of the work we do is driven by these clinical biomarkers. So this color coding of green, yellow, red, and blue, which we've added, is very critical as we look at your biomarkers, okay? So most reports that you're gonna see from us is gonna always be coded in colors, okay? So let's just do a quick walk through Jane Doe on this page. So on the right-hand side, you're looking at those biomarkers of the lipid panel, right? It goes into a lot of detail. When you look at this person's report, you find out that they are in danger in almost 4 areas and in distress in 3 areas. None of them is in green. You see that? You see that person's report? This is a really very, how many people have looked at their heart lipid panels in this detail? Well, when we did it for you, right? And this is very important. Your doctor never shows this to you because he's ignorant, because he's not making you responsible for your health. He should show you so that you take responsibility for what you want to do, right? Do you guys get it? Any questions so far? So you will see that the report is saying, Jane, caution, you're at risk of forming a blockage which can lead to a heart attack or stroke. So already, this panel is showing a lot of danger. So let's turn to the next page. Yes.
You said any questions? The last one, dangerous inherited. Can all of this do anything to mitigate inherited? Can you reduce inherited gene issue, or you just work around it?
Everybody has gene issues. They are just susceptibilities. For example, I'm susceptible to getting fat. That means I just have to eat less carbohydrates. That's it. You see that? We all have susceptibilities. Some of us are susceptible to storing high cholesterol. So you just need to make sure you eat only good fats and exercise. So that's what the genetic susceptibility, it's like a handicap in golf, right? You have a handicap, right? Like I have 4 fingers on this finger. That's a handicap. That means if I'm holding my tennis racket, I buy smaller grips, right? So each of us has a handicap. You're short, you're fat, you're tall, right? Whatever it is, are those genetics. So you build a customization around that for your health.
Okay, so
is that making sense?
Well, yeah, but then the question is a little different focus. She's in the red.
Who's she? Oh, Jane, yeah.
Jane. 58. If you do all this healthy stuff, does that end up moving down some, or are you just always in the red?
No, it will move.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes, those are the lifestyle. Yes. Oh, you're not stuck. Yeah, no, you're not stuck. Yes. So you can fix them. And that's what really the purpose of measurement is. Okay. That we want to baseline you, and then when we start doing the lifestyle interventions, we start moving you, right? So if we turn to the next page, we are now on page 9, right? Well, 8 and 9, it's on the same page, right? Yes, 8 and 9, yes, sorry, right? So we begin to look at cholesterol and all the issues around cholesterol, and you can look at the list of biomarkers that we're measuring. So it's important that you understand that Boston Heart is a company that came out of a really big heart study that happened in America. It was tracking more than 10,000 people, and so they're actually the global leader in heart diagnostics. This is very important. They're just measuring where you are with regard to your heart health, okay? So we look at the HDL map, and it breaks down the HDL particle. HDL is the good fat, right? And LDL is the bad fat. So it takes the HDL and actually breaks it down into which kinds of particles it should have, right? The smaller particles are actually better than the bigger particles, right? Because the HDL particles are very important because they are the ones who help like transferring things to the brain. The blood doesn't go to the brain. It goes through the lymphatic system. And it's also what helps with fat absorption, right? So the smaller the fat, the good fat molecules, the better, rather than the bigger ones that cannot be absorbed. So they actually block rather than absorb, okay? I'm not going to go into more detail around that. So let's move to page 10 and 11. So that one was the absorption, and that one was the production, and this one is the absorption. And it goes to a lot of details here, showing that Jane doesn't really, is it overproduction? There's overproduction of cholesterol for Jane, and the absorption is kind of minimal, right? It's in the middle. So if you overproduce, you should be overabsorbing to balance. And so it's good to just produce enough and to absorb enough, so that everything is in balance. If not, it has to be stored somewhere. And so our bodies are like cars. Everything has to work perfectly. If it is not, then there's an accumulation somewhere, and that accumulation is going to be a problem, right? So let's go to the next page, which is 14 and 15. So we are looking at now the metabolics, right? We are looking at HbA1c. So think about it. So when most of you, when you go to your doctor, are we all on the same page? This page, 14 and 15. Well, yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Did I skip which one?
Information.
12, 13. Okay. So it's still, well, there's an important thing there, which is the CRP and the fibrinogen, which are early markers of inflammation. Very, very important that you pay attention. So there are some clinical biomarkers that we really look at, like critical biomarkers, which are indications that something is going on. So when your CRP is high in red, it means that there is some big inflammation going on in your body. What is the main source of inflammation in the body? Who can tell me? Look at me, it's not on the paper. What is the biggest source of inflammation in the body?
Diabetes?
No, it's not diabetes. Where does the biggest inflammation happen in the body? Yeah, in the blood, because of blood sugar?
Yeah.
All right, now why does blood sugar causes inflammation?
Because it destroys the wall.
Oh, Dr. Yi was teaching that last week. Why does it cause a lot of inflammation?
Okay, so let's see. About sugar levels and insulin. It turned out, I can't quote it all, but it's about like letting stuff in to the blood barrier or to the side of the wall of fuel, and instead it sort of gets trapped inside.
And then it's something.
Yes.
So our whole digestive architecture, our GI architecture, causes a lot of inflammation. That's where the biggest source, and that's why we would recommend here that you are on probiotics and you have digestive enzymes that helps with that whole process and really reduces that level of inflammation. But when the inflammation becomes acute or chronic, it then begins to go to your knees, joints, and other places. So you wake up, oh, I'm aching. Aching is a sign of inflammation, right? It could come from you over-exercising, which is not good, or it could come from you being sick, right? If you run a marathon as you do, for a day or two afterwards you're aching, then it goes away. But because you're young, normally you don't have any aches. But if you have aches, you know that something is wrong. So it's the body saying, we're not happy. If you think, oh, I always ache, it's all right. No, you are ignoring a sign of distress, a yellow flag, right? Inflammation is very important. Fibrinogen is an early marker of inflammation, right? And these are all biomarkers. So you see, the CRP of inflammation is good, but fibrinogen, which is a marker of early inflammation, is going yellow. It means something is brewing, but it is not bad yet, right? So you don't wait for it to go bad before you take action. You want to say, why is fibrinogen going? And typically, if you do a detox and you clean your gut, and it still doesn't go, then you know there's something else. But typically, that's where a lot of the inflammation will be coming from. And you stop eating sugar and reduce your intake of carbohydrates, right? That typically should reduce the inflammation. Okay, is that making sense? So now we go to 14, 15. Any questions? Sorry if I'm running. Any questions? Okay, let's go to 14, 15. So when we start looking at the metabolic panel, look at that first measure there is what we call the pre-diabetes assessment. How many people here have diabetes? How many people know their A1C number? You don't know your A1C number? Your A1C number? Janine, what's his A1C number?
I know my A1C one.
That was a very selfish response from Janine. You need to know your A1C number too, right? It's very important, guys, especially people who have Asian blood or African blood. We are very susceptible to diabetes. Do you understand? Very susceptible. You need to know your A1C number, right? The only people who tend to really be very clean around it are white people, but they should know it too, because most of us don't know the combinations in our blood, right? You know, look at James. He has like 60% black in him. He just doesn't know. Right, James? Okay. So you look at your, but look at this person. So 5.6, when you, no, that's not good. It's already pre-diabetic. But if you went to your doctor will say you're fine.
Yeah.
How do we know you're pre-diabetic? Look at the insulin resistance number, 3.5. So your body, the average blood sugar over the previous 3 months, you're good. But your insulin resistance, your ability to process sugar is very bad. That's a bad sign. Do you see when you begin to look at the overall numbers? And the amount of glucose in your blood is too high. It's already at 108. And the average blood sugar over the previous 2 to 3 weeks is high. Do you get that? So you begin to get a very interesting story that the risk of you developing diabetes in 10 years is very high. That's what this is saying. The cumulative risk. This is the kind of information that your doctor doesn't give you. So that's why we call ourselves on our website that we are practicing a new kind of medicine, right? And we're in the new generation of biomarkers. We're looking at all the numbers and say, what is the story that's emerging about your health? You understand? Especially your heart health. Are you following me? Do you have questions before we go to the next page? Yes, James.
Okay. So how can you have the bottom one, 13 insulin, be great, and yet the one that says amount of blood in your sugar?
You mean the HbA1c? Which one?
Well,
Oh, the amount of
15,
insulin, you have the right insulin level.
but it's not doing the job.
Yes, because there is overwhelming too much. There's a resistance, insulin resistance. You know what insulin resistance is?
Well, I did last week. When I heard it presented, I got it then.
It's the body's ability to really deal with sugar. So all of us, especially when you have obesity, you have insulin resistance. So there's more blood circulating, there's more sugar circulating in your blood than being absorbed.
Okay, so even though
And that
your
high
insulin-
level of blood in the blood is really very dangerous for
So
you.
that means your insulin, so your pancreas is still okay.
Yes.
Your is
Oh, okay,
lower. It's
okay.
not.
Yeah,
now
the
it's
place that
less.
produces, yeah, good answer. Thank you, Dr. E. So the pancreatic isolates, the beta isolates that produce insulin, they're still working okay.
So it's
Okay.
good time to fix it.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when those things start failing, then you have a problem.
Yeah.
By the time you're diabetic, 50% of the pancreatic isolates are already dead.
Yes.
Wow. Do they regenerate or not?
Well, we can do some tricks around that with stem cells.
Okay. All right.
Yes. You can regenerate them with stem cells. Only.
Got it.
Where are we now? We're going to page
16,
16, 17. Okay. So this is the place where we look at the genetic conditions, where we look at how you respond to medications, how likely you are to have blood clots. There are other genetic indications that Boston gives you, and which kinds of medications will work for you in terms of the statins and things like that, okay? We typically here, because we also run a research company upstairs, we know that if you're going to get on medication, you should be on that medication for less than 2 years. Because that's how long any medication is actually tested. Right? So if you're on for it longer than 2 years, we don't know how it's going to work in your body. It wasn't tested for longer than 2 years. Are we clear about that?
Yeah.
We're not saying don't take it. We just don't know the effect long term because nobody tested that.
Do you mean the statins? or
All
cancer?
drugs.
All drugs?
Yes. Nobody tested for more than 2 years. So if you're persistently on a drug, it depends. If you have a genetic or an injury that requires you on the drug, you don't have a choice. But if you have a choice, you should get off the drug as soon as possible because of the side effects. That's the point we make in this clinic. Is that clear? But for some people, you have functional deficiencies that, like if you have type 1 diabetes, you need insulin. There is no solution to that, right? But if you have type 2 diabetes, you can get off insulin. You can get off it, right? Are we clear on that point? Let's go to.
Maybe that is why there are so much increase in dialysis.
Correct. Actually, it's interesting because I was looking at the research on how many dialysis centers are going to be in America by 2025, and it's going to triple the current number. What does that mean? It means that we are projecting that many people are going to have kidney failure.
Wow.
Scary.
When you look at those kind of numbers, don't you get worried, Jane? They're actually preparing for us to make money off us. They're projecting that because, why are they projecting that, Jane?
Well, for lifestyle.
Yes, they know we're lazy. Even though I'm preaching to you guys today, you're going to go home and say, yeah, he was just scaring us. I'm fine. Let me have another sugar in my tea. I like sugar. I love it. I would prefer to go blind or have an amputation and lose my kidney than stop eating my beautiful sugar. Kim took like 6 months to get that message right. Do you understand that?
I'm glad you came this morning.
Yeah. You know when I was in Vietnam 2 weeks ago, that's the same conversation. People say, I cannot imagine how I can stop eating rice, noodles, or bread. What is life without rice, noodles, or bread? I say, well, is rice, noodles, or bread worth your leg? That's the conversation we should be having. So is it worth you going blind, glaucoma? Because you know the end stages for diabetes is not a joke. Everybody thinks it's a joke. You go blind. Glaucoma is standard. You lose your kidney. You start doing dialysis. What is the percentage, the lifespan of anybody in dialysis? On average, 5 to 10 years.
But the pain of having that.
3 times a week. And how many? You need a whole day to recover, and then you're back there again. Then you need a whole day to recover, then you're back. You become handicapped. And then now I have to pay more tax to take care of you. Which in my view, we should just like kill you because it's cheaper for us.
You put that on tape.
All right, that was a joke, guys. Oh well. Okay, so let's look at these numbers here. Okay, we looked at that. Where are we now?
Page 18, 19.
Yeah, 18, 19, sorry. Am I going the right way? All right, so let's look at liver tests, which is very important for us to look at all those enzymes in the liver. The kidney tests, right? There's even one day for African American, because we are like the big marker for filtration rates for the liver, right? So they've non-African American and African American, because the test shows that we have a big challenge with that. I look at that number all the time. That number is the filtration rate inside your, how quickly, you know, the kidney is such a beautiful boy. It filters all the bullshit, recycles it back to the body, and then excretes that shit, right? The kidney is like such a beautiful boy working hard, James. You've been punishing that boy all day, right? So you want to make sure, and then creatinine, we all know that these numbers are very important. When you become our patient, we try to educate you on all these numbers slowly. As Kim knows and James knows, it takes a long time. It's a lot of numbers. We have over 500 clinical biomarkers. But you need to know because it's your body. If you don't want to know, that's fine. Go visit other doctors. But if you're going to work with us, we want to make sure we have, our mission is very clear. We empower you with knowledge so that you can take action. That's it. Because if you don't have knowledge, you can't take action. Then the thyroid, we look at homocysteine, we look at albumin. Vitamin D, 90% of Americans are short on vitamin D. Vitamin D is one of the most important vitamins. That's why they test it, right? And then what they do is that they then do what they call a fatty acid balance test. And they look at your different fatty acids and all of that, and they give you some outcomes on that, right? The bad fats, the good fats, right? And the kinds of things that, you know, some people think if I'm ketogenic, I can eat butter, I can eat cheese, I can eat dessert. No, right? And you should eat sardines. I know Americans are not used to sardines. I come from Africa, we eat sardines all the time. It's a beautiful thing to eat sardine and bread. You've never had it?
Never heard that.
You miss a lot.
You know, right? Man, sardina
miss a
bread.
But
It's heavenly.
the bread,
Yeah, brioche. You need that buttered bread with sardine.
but I thought
It
the
is.
bread is, you said stay away
Oh,
from
but
it.
just once in a while.
There
What-
you go.
Are you gonna die
Is
without the
bread your
drink?
sugar? Is that the deal? Okay. So-
Like once a week.
Okay, sardines loaded with omega fats or something?
Yes, they come. Typically, I buy the one washed in olive oil.
Okay.
Yeah, and then put it on some brioche once a week,
Yeah,
and then just bite it slowly, James.
I
And
just
enjoy it.
wash it, yeah, and then I add olive oil.
Oh, really?
Always I do that because I wanna
Take the salt out.
get rid of the salt
Yeah.
and preservative stuff.
Oh, that's inside the sardine itself.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Yeah,
That's
so
why
he
I
washes
wash
it,
it.
and then he puts olive oil on
Olive
it.
oil.
Yeah,
It's really good.
it's beautiful,
Sounds good.
and it's cheap.
I like sardines. Put some on pizzas.
Okay, so we're done with this. Any questions? I move to the next part.
I just wanna, the vitamin D level, most of people think that it's really normal limit is like 25, 30 is okay, but actually vitamin D recommend optimal level, which is like 70 and 80.
Yeah. So when we give you, so how many people here are taking our F1? Our recommended RDA. You are taking it. James, you are taking it?
Well, I'm sure I am, I just don't.
Are you not taking our supplements? You should be.
I don't think I have.
Okay. So if you're taking our F1, so let me just quickly tell you what I'm talking about. Okay, so the way I have mapped out our supplements is that, so I looked at the RDA, and it's based on age and gender. That's the way the FDA. So this we call F1. So if you're a woman above 50, you have a certain kind of requirements. And that's what we do as part of F1. So we give you the basic FDA requirements. It's a full set. The F0 is the diet recommendation. And our diet recommendation is the modified Mediterranean or the keto. And I know, James, we're recommending the keto for you, right? Okay, that's our F0. Then we have F2 and F3. F2 are for your yellow biomarkers, because we want to bring them to green. Do you need some water? Please give us some water quickly. Okay. And F3 are for your red biomarkers. So in that report, any biomarker that was red, we give you an aggressive solution to address the red. And then this one is an intervention to address the yellow. And all of these are nutrients. And some of these also are medical foods. So for example, people who have insulin resistance or dyslipidemia, we'll put them on the glucose meal. Can you bring some samples of this medical food? So we put them on medical foods because the medical foods provide added assistance to addressing the underlying condition that we found in an accelerated manner. You understand? That's why we call it F2, F3. We are trying to accelerate the addressing. So what we do is that, what causes injury to the system? Why is a biomarker yellow or red? There are three things that cause disease, right? Number one is nutrient deficiency. Over a long period of time, right? 10, 20 years, you have not been eating properly like we used to eat in the village. Number two is toxicity. And number three is infections. I'm not going to talk about your genetics because we all have that. So these three things are really at the center of illness. Infections, especially when you take antibiotics, it takes away 99.9%. This 0.1% that's left accumulates in the organs and causes a lot of challenges, whether it's the heart. I'm going to show you some stuff, right? A lot of the bacteria from the mouth goes and sits in the heart. That's why they tell you that mouth disease is a precursor to heart disease, right? The infections in the mouth. That's why good dental hygiene, you should be cleaning your teeth with the doctor, with the dentist twice a year. Good dental hygiene is very important as part of your health, right? And also if you catch the flu all the time and all of that, that's bad for your long-term health. So toxicity, we all know that we are toxic. It's a fact because you breathe the air, you drink the water, you eat the food. So you have toxicity, so you should be detoxing. Then on top of that, nutrient deficiency. So when we design our programs to support F2 and F3, we are looking at all these things to try and intervene and bring your yellow and red biomarkers into the green phase. Does that make sense? The way we address toxicity is through our detox program, IVs, like Dr. E takes a metalloclear and other things every day to take out the toxic elements that just come from life. But to stop that, we use these air purifiers and the water purifiers. So the water that you're having here is doubly filtered water. So the air that we are breathing here, so we use this as part of a way to reduce toxicity, right? The water you're drinking, the air, and for some of you, I've already given you how to get things like this in your bedroom, just to reduce the toxicity. Even your car is toxic. You pack it in the sun, when you get in the car, all the chemicals from the plastic used in the car, you're breathing that. That's why people say in a hot day when you get in your car, open the car for air to get in before you enter the car. If you enter a hot car and you start the car, you're breathing in chemicals. That's just a fact. And so we have toxicity. And that toxicity is causing distress, right? Plus nutrient deficiency. Is this making sense, guys?
Yeah.
So how do you fix these things that are happening? Number one, the body is very good. If you give it enough nutrients, it's going to clear some of this by itself. Do you understand? The body is very good. It would say, you have a healthy liver, you have a healthy kidney. The kidney and the liver are really very good in cleaning the shit out, right? But if it has accumulated over a long period of time, we're going to use chelation, which is a slower process of detoxing you. Because if we detox you too quickly, you will get very sick. Because we release all that toxins in your blood, and then your liver and kidney are not ready for the extraction. Do you understand? So detox is a very slow process if you have never detoxed before, right? Dr. E takes it. So a lot of people who cannot lose fat, it's because the toxins are holding the fat. And so when you take the detox every day, or you come weekly or every 2 weeks for your IV detox, slowly, you begin to release. And then you begin to check where you buy your food, you begin to check where you drink your water. Do you understand? So slowly, you begin to reduce the levels of toxicity in your life. Very important, guys. This is the big issue. I just put on my Facebook page the glyphosate. It is the highest pesticide in America. Everybody has it in their body. And it's cancerous. I know many people don't know that. Right? So when we do your urine analysis with doctors' data, which is one of these, it shows you all the toxic elements that's in your urine and in your body, right? Okay, I took a diversion there when you asked about F2. Is everybody clear now how we make our nutrient recommendations?
Yeah.
Right, so this medical food, I take this one because I have genetically and also just from my biomarkers a challenge with managing glucose, right? So like this morning I took that. even though I add something on top of that. But I take this so that it manages how my body is managing glucose. It's a very important medical food, right? We have a package here which is also a 10-day detox program. And so there are different things we have here that my team can talk to you about later on as to how we engineer this program to actually reduce your impact of chronic illness and inflammation. So inflammation comes from these things. All chronic illness comes from that. Nutrient deficiency is the number one. Nobody can eat their way through RDA. You cannot. Why don't you put it up? Let's see. Vincent, come and put the RDA up. Let's walk through the RDA, because a lot of people, how many people here know what manganese is? Hello, have you ever heard what manganese is? Do you think it is in the food you eat?
Spend it in your food,
Yeah.
which helps.
What about
some of-
selenium? What about chromium?
all these minerals.
Do you understand? These are all things that we need every day. And when we were in the village, our food used to have all of this. But the way now we plant and the way we've used our soil and destroyed the soil architecture, right? We've just been producing a lot of food and calories, right? Because that's the other thing I talk about, right? The difference between nutrients and calories. James, you want to give me the lecture on that? What's the difference between nutrients and calories, James?
Well, calories just, they're a source of fuel, but whether they work or not, or toxic or other stuff is indeterminate. Nutrients, just what you said, they help the body actually
Yes.
function.
Function.
Yes. So in America, Americans don't know the difference between calories and nutrients. Most of American diet is calories.
So
That's why obesity is such a big problem. But really, what the body needs is nutrients. Because the body can always translate fat into calories. The body doesn't need calories, except you're a fighter or you're a runner. The body doesn't need it because the body converts the extra nutrients into fat, which it then uses when it needs energy. Right? So when you're eating, and that's why eating carbohydrates is just such a challenge. It only works if you were working on a farm 8 hours a day. Right? Like those guys who are working in the Central Valley harvesting, yeah, they can eat calories because they're actually using it. Or you're running a marathon every day, right? So expand that, let's walk through and you look at what the FDA recommends is the list. Actually, did we print this at some point?
Yeah, we print.
Okay, can you print this again? So let's look at the first one there, which is biotin. Right? No, not right now. Somebody else can print it, right? Janine, can you print it? So they can have copies to go with, and then you print it double-sided, right? So look at biotin, where it's found, and how much daily you need of it. 300 micrograms. Yes.
million.
And then look at folate, very, very important one, B12. Folate, folic acid, important for pregnant women and women capable of becoming pregnant, right? It prevents birth defects, right? How many women knew that? Protein metabolism, sorry?
It prevents Alzheimer's.
Yes. And then red blood cell formation. But look at the foods, right? Beans, all these things. It doesn't talk about any beef here, right? 400 of it every day. So this is the daily value, right? It's not monthly. Niacin, cholesterol production, which is very good. You saw the markers for lanestrolol and that one for production and absorption, right? And look at the sources, 20 milligrams. Pantoteic acid, right? 10 milligrams. Riboflavin, which is also a B. Look at what it does. Thiamine, these are all B vitamins. Continue. Then vitamin A, right? Then vitamin B, then vitamin B12. And that B12 is the very important one because you, hold on, you need to know whether you have the mutation for you to have the methylated B12 or the normal B12 because just of absorption. Your body cannot absorb. Not all of us can. 40% of people have that mutation. So you need to find out what B12 you should be taking. I think typically here we give everybody, right, Janine? Here we give everybody the methylated form,
Yes.
just in case.
Yes.
All right? And then vitamin D, which Dr. Yi was just talking about, right? Very, very important for blood pressure regulation, right? Bone growth, especially for women after menopause, calcium balance, hormone production, immune function. Vitamin D, very, very important. Then vitamin E, it's an antioxidant, right? Vitamin K, calcium. Now we start getting into the minerals. That's the ones that we were talking about. I know most of you didn't do chemistry, so you're like, oh shit, I should have attended class. Well, now you look at calcium, right? Blood clotting, bone and teeth formation, all those things. Look at chloride. Very important balance in the stomach. You know, the stomach is very acidic, but the blood is very alkaline. So that acidic alkaline balance is really managed by the chloride. You see the acid-base balance for digestion and absorption. That acidic alkaline balance is managed by chloride. Then chromium, then copper, then iodine, very important one, right? Iodine, for metabolism, for reproduction, for thyroid. You know, actually everybody should take extra iodine every day because of thyroid function. Most people have thyroid problems, right? So you should increase your iodine amount. Then iron, that's the one where, you know, if you're no longer having period, then you reduce the amount of that you're taking. Now we go to the ones that all come from Africa. Magnesium, right? Manganese. You see that sweet potato? They didn't put Irish potatoes there. They put sweet potato. That's the good one you should be eating, not the Irish one that the white boy still does to eat, right? Then phosphorus. How many people knew what phosphorus was? You use it when you do your celebration for independence. Then potassium, then psyllium, right? Then sodium, the salt, just a little bit of it. Look at the daily amount required for that balance. Then zinc, I think that's it. We give you that in the daily value. So look at the glucose, medical food.
It's all of it.
I take this every day. You take 2 scoops of this every day, and it will give you most of that. So the question, sorry?
I said, take that and remember all of that.
And we're gonna give you copies. Well, that's the
No, I'm
challenge.
just saying, I mean, just that look, I'm gonna be overloaded with supplement in my body if I'm gonna take like 20 different.
That's what we came to the conclusion that rather than giving you different number of pills, why don't we just put you on a couple of medical foods and it addresses your full RDA? So you just mix the drink in the morning. I take it too in the morning. Yeah, do we have Inflamex there? I take Inflamex, I mix with this, and I also mix it with the MCT. Bring the MCT also, which is my colleague.
20 bottles is about 35 pills. And it just gets really old.
Right. So I take this every day. So I mix this 3 every day, every morning. I mix this 3 every morning. This one is to increase ketone production. And then this one is for the management of compromised gut function, fixes your gut. And then this one is for glucose control. So if you mix all of that, I meet my requirements. But sometimes I take the extra D and the B12 and all of those things because I still have red biomarkers, right?
You do?
Well, I did. I haven't done my blood recently.
Oh, the clinic.
Yes, I do. Give them copies so that everybody takes a copy home. Any questions before we move to the last part?
Yes, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Is vitamin B12 is differentiate of B12 is genetics? Because it's
I
not,
don't understand the question.
like my family is known in my country has deficiency of B12.
Yes, so the problem could be that you have the mutation. I have it, the MTFHR mutation. Can you open it? Let's look at it. That mutation, people who have that mutation do not absorb the cobalamin properly. So they need the methylated form of cobalamin. And that's the one that I take, because I have that mutation. Because when they tested my blood, there was B12 in my blood, but when they tested my cell, my micronutrient, I was deficient in B12.
Yeah.
And so there's an absorption issue of the B12. So I was taking enough B12, but it wasn't being absorbed into my cells.
Yeah, because when I came here to the United States, first thing I asked the doctor when they had my blood test, please tell me about B12. Do I have deficiency of B12 or not? He said, you are okay. Because my brother, he takes shots for that.
I don't know whether it is. Okay, look at the MTFHR mutation. So you should get tested if you have elevated homocysteine levels. Sometimes they help determine your risk of thrombosis or premature CVV through some. Can you look for a better place for that? This is some kind of bullshit side. All right. So this mutation, Boston had tests for that mutation. So if it comes positive, right, it means that you have that big risk. And that folate metabolism is one of the most important metabolisms in the body. So when you're short on B12, typically you're going to get sick on a lot of different things.
So we do have two tests, blood and also intracell and
Yeah, I didn't want to go into too much detail
that's why-
when they haven't even done level 1. You have to start with finding out whether you have the mutation, then we'll find out. But which B12 are you taking right now?
No, not me. My brother, he gets.
No, but
shot.
are you taking B12?
No,
Why not?
because the doctor told me you are okay.
Okay. Are you taking supplement B12?
No.
No, you have to. It's very important. Don't listen to those doctors. They don't, when you die, they don't come and pay a check for lying.
Yeah.
They're not going to give a check to your family. I lied. So I want to make sure that everybody who works with us actually take ownership of their data, because you are the one responsible for your life. Okay? A couple of people who have worked with us, they're here. I think both of you have been with us now for like 6 to 9 months. It's a tough road. It's a lot of knowledge and responsibility to take ownership of. Well, no, seriously, come on, James. It's challenging.
It took me 3 months to take you guys more serious. I believe
That's
you.
what I
Yeah,
meant.
I start changing my mind about all the medicine outside. Here I start realizing what is the true medicine for everybody.
Correct. The true medicine for everybody is nutrients.
Yeah.
You see, the RDA, the FDA
And they
has
don't
published
tell
it.
you about these things.
Well, they do. It's published. It's just that nobody tells you because they want you to take medication. It helps the economy. They call it consumer spending. They want you to take medication. So it's published. It's just that nobody tells you. So the FDA has published it. Nutrients is what the body needs for repair, for creating new cells, and for excretion. That's what the body doesn't need calories. Do you understand that? It's very important. All American food is about calories, not about nutrients. That's why I just put on Facebook, they took some African Americans and gave them an African diet. Kim read it. In 2 weeks, their blood changed. 2 weeks.
Assuming you didn't clean up.
Obviously.
Just making sure.
Cleaned up. Then they put the Africans on some African American diet. 2 weeks, they were all sick. The research was done in Pennsylvania. Well, go read it. So when I'm talking to people, they begin to argue, well, but I love my McDonald's, I love my fries. I mean, the fries from McDonald's are not even real potato. It's not. How many Americans know that? Do we know what it is? We don't even know what it is. Do you understand? So, and the oil they are frying it in, you don't even know what the oil is. They fried what, 100 times with that same oil? So you see the point. So the reason why I said it's a tough journey is because you have to really like change your mindset.
Yeah.
It's a big mindset shift. First of all, you're like, Charles is not a doctor, so why should I believe him? Right? That's the first thing people say. But are you a doctor? I've been in Vietnam. Are you a doctor? No. I don't need to be a doctor. You know, right? Then the second issue is, but I like it. As Kim was saying the other day, I like it. The body doesn't care whether you like it. The body only cares about what you need. Right? The body only cares about what it needs. And when you don't give it what it needs, it's going to go into distress and then disorder. And by the time it's in disorder, all the research is showing that if you already have diabetes, it takes minimum 2 years to reverse it. And 2 years on a ketogenic diet. Right, Janine? 2 years to reverse it. And that means it becomes a lifetime battle, right? Of changing everything. Your air, your water, your food, your exercise, your stress, your sleep. So I'm going to go quickly through the lifestyle questionnaire. Some of you have done it already. Can you come pass it around? Pass it back down. Some of you have done this already. So I want you to take this home. We have your email address, right? Yes. We're going to send you a couple of questionnaires. But the first thing you need to do we have a basic program for women? How old are you, may I ask?
We have.
Wow, you look good. You're going to do a body composition today. Can you do that? Yeah, so do the body composition, and they will give you a recommendation for F1. All right? It's good that you start taking the basic nutrients. Right? And you too, madam. Madam, are you taking F1, our standard RDA requirement? You're what, 63?
Yes.
Thank you for saying yes.
You're gonna get him proud.
It's because she knows I said it with deep love. Right?
Did you say she's in her 50s?
Yeah. Well, do you want to do the body composition and then we give you a recommendation? Yeah, say yes. Yeah. Yeah. So why don't we start doing their body composition now, right? And then let's do that. So this lifestyle questionnaire, I want you to take it home and work on it, and come back to us if you need help. And it's very important. Do you have any other questions? We have a lot of information. I don't want to overwhelm you. We run classes on a lot of, can you bring our program, our workshop program, for the next couple of weeks or months?
So, is it this Friday, what time?
Yes, I was going to do that, talk about that, yes. This Friday, at noon, there's a lunch program here. There's a lunch program here. Where's Janine?
She's doing body composition.
Then Vincent, come here. You guys can. Janine, can you come help me here? There's a video on Boston that Dr. Gunn is on. We had said it. Did you see that? The first video. Can you run that? Dr. Gunn is going to be here. Gordon Gunn. He is women's doctor, but he works with Boston Heart. I want you to watch that video. He's going to be here on Friday at lunchtime talking about hormones, women, and cardiovascular risk.
You said 12 o'clock, right?
Noon, yes. So I had found the video already. It must have been the first one. No, not that one. Check Boston. Boston. Check Boston. I had opened the video already. You guys closed it. Okay, just search for Boston. So Boston Heart Diagnostics video. Boston Heart Diagnostic video. Okay, it's this one. Yeah, run that video. Okay, guys, listen to that video. Dr. Gunn talks in that video. He's going to be here on Friday. Volume.
Did you want the one by Boston Heart?
No, this is the right one. And then put the volume when you start it. No, just the volume should be fine on the computer. Is that it? Yeah. And then on that too.
I recommend the lifestyle program that Boston Heart offers for all of my patients. To me, it's about convenience and really catering to the patient, and that's what I feel the lifestyle program does.
I really love the lifestyle program because it gives them an opportunity to change some lifestyle habits that are pretty ingrained.
It works.
That's it.
And people could see this, and when they do follow-up labs, they can see what was red last time is now yellow, maybe green this time. They feel victorious. I see the difference in their whole lipid profile. I see the difference in their inflammatory markers and their prediabetes testing for sure. I'm definitely seeing improvement.
All patients eligible for the lifestyle program receive instructions for joining attached to their lab reports.
I give
The
them a
question I
five-step
was giving you.
instruction sheet on how to enroll the program, how to contact and choose a coach, why choosing a coach for 3 months and working with them is key to their success. I said, I've given you the information. These are my basic recommendations, but I need to hear from you. Are you really ready to embrace this and make the changes? Because if you are, this program's made for you.
I say, okay, it's going to take about 5 to 10 minutes of your time. Please go home, log on to mybostonheart.com, and they can log in, answer the lifestyle questionnaire.
After patients complete the simple lifestyle questionnaire, a personalized life plan will be generated within the secure patient portal. The life plan is the only personalized nutrition and activity plan tailored to the risk factors and preferences of each individual patient. Patients can put their scientifically designed plans into action with the help of a Boston Heart coach, a registered dietitian who blends information, support, and motivation to drive success.
It's that accountability piece. I can't do that. I don't have time in my practice to counsel patients as much on diet as I would like.
It becomes much more of a collaborative effort rather than me telling my patient, you need to lose weight.
The Boston Heart Healthcare Provider Portal helps you manage your patient's health outcomes.
I wanted to know how many patients I had in the system. Of those patients, how many have had follow-ups? Those patients, how many actually did their life plan and registered, and how many were with coaches? So I have access to that information now.
The lifestyle program offers tools to help you and your patients get started, but the most important factor is you. Your passion and encouragement inspires patients to take action.
I talk to them about my own personal experience because I enrolled in the lifestyle program myself. And I went online and I looked at the website, made an appointment, and talked to a dietitian.
I cannot tell you how many patients I have had referred to me, whether it be family member, friend, co-workers. They come in and say, I want to do that Boston Heart test.
They go home and they say, my husband would really benefit from this, or my coworker. I mean, I have a patient she looks so great and she's been feeling so good. Her coworkers wanted to come and do the test, so it's very good for our practice.
I've used the Boston Heart Diagnostics program for over a year and a half now, and it has made a tremendous difference in the quality of my practice.
So he's going to be here on Friday at noontime. If you can come, you can ask questions. The focus we are making Friday for is for discussions about women in menopause and hormone therapy and cardiovascular risk. Recent research shows that women in menopause have almost a 6 to 8 times increased risk for cardiovascular stroke illnesses, especially if they are not managing their hormones. That's the research. And so he will be talking about that. and how he's helping with some of that. We have supplements. There are two things that a lot of women do. You either do hormone replacement therapy or you take natural supplements to help with that hormone balance of testosterone, progesterone, and estrogen. Those three hormones are really very critical in maintaining immune health and just overall health of every woman. And so it's really important that, and it's not just for menopausal women. A lot of young women too have the condition called PCOS, which is an instability in their hormone architecture. So they can get pregnant or they have issues with their period and things like that. So that whole range of stuff, you cannot know until you run this Boston test and you see where your hormonal levels are. So Janine and the team here, they will check the profile of which kind of test you need to run so that you can make sure that you address that. Because if your hormones are not balanced, you can do everything else you want to do, you're still going to have a problem. They are really critical, that those three hormones and the thyroid and the other hormones are very critical for health. Okay? Any other questions? So, a couple of things that we're going to leave you with. Number one, I spoke about it. You need to address your nutrient deficiency. That's just critical. You need to. Nobody can eat their way through nutrients. You know the list I just went through? Yeah. Nobody can make a daily diet that addresses that. So the cheap way, I just take my medical food or take my supplement. Number two, you have to find out your toxicity level and start detoxing. You need to. Very critical. And then number three, just reduce your infections. And how do you reduce that? Stop touching people. And always wash your hands. Right? And door handles, all full of infection. Because a lot of people, I see them at airports, they use the bathroom and they don't wash their hands. And we all hold the same door. You see it too, right?
Yeah.
And you are going to touch the same door handle. You're not going to say, oh, I can't touch that door handle. I use the paper that I use to clean my hands to then hold the door handle, right? I'm very careful about that stuff because I don't want infections. But you need to wear door handles everywhere. So even if I try, I'm still going to get infections, right? So what do? Always wash your hands. And don't rub your eyes if you haven't washed your hands, right? Or wear masks, right? On the plane, all those people coughing, I just like, mask up, right? So you begin to, because if you don't reduce those infections, some people say, oh, I had the flu and I'm fine now. I don't remember the last time I had a flu, right? I don't remember the last time I had the flu. I don't. When I get on that plane, I cover up, right? Or I take the IV before I go, or I take the IV immediately I come back. But boosting your immune system is the number one issue, right? Because we live in a polluted world. So those three things, we build what we call lifestyle strategies around, and then we support people. Any questions, any feedback? Soon you're going to be running this class. You've attended a lot of it. James, go ahead.
If you could just give just a real brief, what's the difference? I was with nutrients, then we just went to hormones. What's the difference between a hormone and a nutrient?
A hormone helps the working of the nutrients. So the body is a very complicated. Doctor, you want to talk about hormones?
Hormone is like a project manager, and you need a worker. Nutrients are workers. If you only have a managers, there are no workers. It's not gonna work.
So like thyroid.
When you build a house, you just have the construction worker. I mean the managers, and then they put appropriate people in the different department.
So hormones are produced internally by your body,
Yes.
and you don't take supplements to do
Like
hormones.
Yes. When the body is working very well, then the hormones are produced.
Yes.
But as we age, it affects that hormone production also. That's why people have thyroid issues, adrenal issues with stress, thyroid issues with growth, sex hormone issues, right? And the depletion of it. So, and stress also depletes that. Yeah, it's just an aging process, so you need to just rebalance them. Yeah, they control, they're like controllers of everything. Okay. You wanna get
You mentioned the village several times. Where does your country work? Where are you from?
I'm Cameroon. I thought you know that, James. Cameroon. You want to Google that and show him where my village is in Bamistan? We can see it on Google Maps. You should look at it. And then you might see them dancing.
Yeah.
I just have several friends.
That's a big box.
So, any comments, any questions as we finish? Kim, did you take all your stuff?
I'm trying to.
All right, so check it whether all is there. I don't know if they all, did we, but everything is there for Kim? All right, some of it is not there.
No, I just want to see it first. You don't need to bring it. Let me just see what I have.
Came last week, but this is really good.
I know there's like 8 items.
Okay,
That's
some
what she was
remain,
saying to me.
some goes away. While I'm there, I'm getting, so, but, you know, before I'm getting the why to do all this, to.
This one where you come home.
Oh, this is, yeah, this is the one that the
Why bother?
Okay.
I'm getting the why. Before, it's like no matter what, everything.
That's why I told you it takes a long time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Wait.
because you really have
I thought
to
this is a 2.
be fully committed.
yeah.
What is it?
I thought this was the
No,
last
those are
time.
little sachets.
Okay, so this is better. The last time I had the
Better.
whole 2.
Yeah, this is sachets. You just suck the one sachet a day, I think.
Okay, so this is only
Yeah,
good for
open
20
it,
days.
Open it. Yeah, they're sachets. Yeah.
So it's only good for 20 days. Okay.